Good afternoon, everybody. I'm from Havas Play. For those who don't know who Havas Play, it's the brand experience agency within Havas. We handle all sort of partnerships from a cultural point of view, but also media partnerships, live experience, and social. So that's what we're going to be getting into today with Donata, who's head of brand experience, so a good fit there, and some of the media partnerships that they've been doing and some of their golden tips on how to do them yourselves. So, Donata, do you want to give us a little bit of an overview of what the head of brand experience does at HSBC?
Yes, sure. And hi, everyone. And thank you so much for making the time for our little chat. So my name is Donata Peksa, and I look after global brand campaigns. So the name of the role is brand experience, but effectively what it means is that we develop and deliver and plan global brand building campaigns at a priming level for HSBC across our global channels. So that includes our airports, social, partnership events, content partnerships, which we will be talking about, and we also drive brand positioning for the group and for the markets, and then we cascade it to the market. So that is the role of me and my team.
Good. So from a media partnership point of view, so let's start right back at the beginning of what a partnership is, but also, how do you sort of identify the need for a partnership versus traditional advertising? So it'd be good for you to sort of maybe tell it the difference from your point of view. But how does it fit into the mix, and what does it deliver that other forms of the sort of mix do not deliver?
Yeah, exactly. So the central part of the conversation today is content partnerships and media partnerships. So I won't necessarily touch on sports partnerships or sponsorships. That's kind of something that another team in my broader team does. I think for us in particular, in 2024, when we embarked on a journey to reclaim our storytelling heritage, we realized very quickly that if we want to increase kind of the salience, the fame, and the trustworthiness of our brand, it would be great to find a partner whose credibility we can borrow, whose audiences we can borrow, and someone who really understands and knows how to deliver and produce engaging and exciting content and tell stories in an exciting way. And we obviously wanted to find a partner that is also able to reflect our footprint, global footprint, that is able to reach our target audiences, so kind of affluent internationalist audiences around the world, and also someone who has skill set and capability in terms of producing that type of content. And there aren't that many partners that are suitable for HSBC, again, given our very mixed and diverse audience group and our kind of East and West axis as well.
Good. And from that sort of partnership point of view, because it is very different to, as I say, from an advertising and a media point of view where you sort of own it end to end, it's a very different relationship to actually build a media partnership. And how do you build that partnership up when you've selected the partner you want to work with? How do you sort of build that relationship so that you can actually truly co-create, but you obviously feel trusting at the same time, but you're letting them do what they do and you get what you need out of it?
Yeah, so it is very different to a pure paid media buy. And I think it's very important that you come into that relationship knowing that very well, and that conversation and very transparent and honest conversation with the partner around how much control you are comfortable giving up for the benefit of having this engaging and really exciting and thrilling content and compelling content that someone is going to co-produce with you. And I think there are also different levels of editorial control when you do enter that conversation. So with Bloomberg, for example, we had two-prong approach. So one of the pieces of our partnership was called Momentum, and that was just sponsoring a series that was completely controlled by Bloomberg, but we did know what the series was going to be about, and we did know what topics and themes they will be talking about. And then the other element of that was a 6-part series, AV series, that was integrated in Momentum. And those episodes were completely co-created between us and Bloomberg, but we obviously relied quite heavily on the production company or the production team from Bloomberg in Singapore. So I think what made it a success, what turned it into a success, was that we were very honest with each other from the very beginning, from the get-go, and they knew that we needed their partnership for certain reasons. We also briefed them on the brand platform that we were developing at the time. We told them that we were after stories of kind of turning points of business breakthroughs of innovation, and we told them specifically which priority markets we are in, what type of audiences we are interested in. We onboarded the production team on our tone of voice, on our brand guidelines. So it was very, I think, clear from our perspective what mandatories and non-negotiables there were on our side. But at the same time, we were very keen for them to bring the creative element to it, for them to help us write the scripts for the stories, to find the really interesting angles of the stories. We provided them with some names of clients that we thought had really interesting stories. We didn't necessarily mandate that the stories had to be of HSBC clients, but it obviously didn't hurt that, you know, some of them were integrated and featured in the series. So I think, as with any relationship, you just need to understand that there will be a bit of control surrender, but at the same time you will be getting in exchange some really beautiful storytelling, and you need to choose the partner with full kind of awareness and conscious of what they represent and what values they have, and whether they are aligned with your values as well.
Great. And I guess there's other people involved in the process. So you're a bank, a global bank, and I imagine we also have us work with HSBC. So we know from a governance and control point of view, there's quite a lot of sort of guidelines you have to follow. I mean, how easy is it for you to manage the stakeholders internally and like get them to buy into sort of handing over control to a media partner versus where they may be used to controlling the whole narrative?
So I wouldn't say that it's particularly easy because there are so many markets and because there are so many lines of business in HSBC, there isn't really one single sole partner that will be suitable for all of them. But we chose 3 different partners, and 3 different partnerships were established. And I think that because the audiences are so diverse, we wanted to make sure that all the audiences were going to be covered with either of the partnerships. So, for example, Bloomberg was primarily chosen for our B2B audiences, for our senior business decision makers, you know, large corporations and innovation banking, so kind of scale-ups and unicorns. And then we also had a partnership with Condé Nast, and Condé Nast was specifically targeting high net worth, ultra high net worth, more affluent audiences in their kind of downtime, in their lean back moments. So we also wanted to target them at slightly different moments during their day. And then the third element was Vox. So we had a partnership with Vox, which was specifically around entrepreneurs, business owners, and that those were kind of very short and sweet explainer videos about emerging trends. So it was an easier conversation with stakeholders because we chose a partner that is a long-standing partner of HSBC. So Bloomberg is a media powerhouse that everyone knows and has a very kind of similar suite of values to HSBC, similar tonality. And then Condé Nast was an exciting opportunity for us, but it was clearly understood that it matches, it fits the bill. And then Vox was a bit of an experiment as well, because we hadn't necessarily had previously much dealing with Vox. So I think when you kind of present it in a more holistic way and you explain what benefits each of the audiences will have and each line of business will have as a result of that, the conversation is a bit easier.
And I guess brands like Bloomberg align with a brand like HSBC, so I think it wouldn't be too much of a hard sell to say we're going to partner with this big international news corporation versus a partner that they'd never heard of.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm going to open up for questions in a second, but I just think the last main question that we sort of discussed was about the golden rule. So I guess you talked a lot about the process, the editorial control, the sort of, how you sort of set the brief out in the first place. But what would be your sort of 3 pointers for so somebody here thinking about doing a media partnership, what would be your 3 sort of golden tips for setting one up in the right way?
And I wouldn't necessarily want to teach you how to suck eggs because I'm pretty sure that you have done it before. But I think I could not kind of emphasize too strongly how important it is to really set the guardrails of the relationship from the get-go. And it means that the initial conversations are probably going to take quite a long time, but it really is worth it. And we did include a lot of these conversations and the guardrails in our contract. It is effectively, how much control you are going to have, how extensive your review process is going to be, how long you're gonna, how much of a turnaround time you're going to be given as a client to review the script or the translations, what level of decision making you will have when it comes to choosing the location or the talent, what are again your mandatories and your non-negotiables, and then just sensing kind of the chemistry with the production team as well, and with the creative team that you will be working with is super important. So again, spend that time up front, having those conversations, be very frank with each other, but also committed with full knowledge that it's not a pure media buy and that some level of control will need to be relinquished, I think would be my top tips. What do you think, Nick, when you have kind of played a role of the mediator between the client and the media partner?
I think just, full transparency from the start, making sure that both sides realise what you're getting into. I think a good media partnership for me starts with finding that the audience piece of like, right, well, this audience is what you're going after. This media partner has got that audience in abundance, and they've got the respect of that audience. So that's the starting point, and then I think from there it's just making sure, taking the client on the journey to know that you're not going to get exactly what you want. This isn't advertising. You don't get to control it, but what you do get is you get to cross the floor from the advertising space into the editorial space, which is where everybody wants to be. So I think you agree. I think to set the rules from the start and make sure that everyone's clear. And sometimes you do, as an agency, have to play the mediator and step in and just try and balance the two sides out. But if you get it right, it's a beautiful thing.
Brilliant. Shall we just maybe showcase a short video about what this media partnership ended up looking like? Or two even. Perfect.
This collaboration creates new business opportunities, combining cultures, ideas, stories together to expand our horizon. When we come together, the learning is immense.
I think you don't start a startup if you want to sleep at night.
Technology is evolving every day. Always stay curious, unlocking the new possibilities.
With HSBC and Bloomberg Media, hear from the modern leaders building the future.
It takes a global network to harness possibilities.
We just want to build something that becomes the norm.
Tackle a problem and find the solution.
Wherever your business takes you, HSBC can help.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Donata?
Hi, I'm Joe. Thank you so much for your talk. Just thinking, nowadays in the landscape, we have so many, I think people are losing trust in the media, and you have so much choice. Like, for instance, you could use social media, your own channels, or, how do you approach, how do you choose? You think you choose, okay, I'm going to use the media, or how do you make sure people see the content, people are interested in the content? Do you work together with a partner in making sure it's content that's aligned with something that's already working editorially, or do you look at trends? How do you make sure that the content is relevant, resonates with your audience? Because when I create content, I feel like, sometimes it's difficult to cut through that noise, and I just want to know what your thoughts are on that. Thank you.
That's a really brilliant question and a challenge and a huge challenge. And I think one reason of choosing a media partnership or a content partnership is to overcome this challenge. Because again, if you work for a category that perhaps is not instinctively sought after as financial services, are, then the ability to come together with a media powerhouse that knows what emerging trends are interesting to people and how to get their attention and how to really pique their interest, that is one of the benefits that you get. So again, if I were to produce our own content, obviously it would largely speak about HSBC. Through producing content that was Bloomberg Originals to start with, they already had done the heavy lifting of finding out what is interesting to people, what are the topical subjects they want to cover. And then we just integrated our branding in a pretty subtle and frankly quite recessive way into that content. So it wasn't so much about HSBC, it was about those leaders, it was about those breakthroughs, it was about that innovation, and it was delivered in the usual format that Bloomberg would speak to people. So we had all of those insights and know-how from Bloomberg to stand behind those series, which is one of the reasons why we did do that. And I think they also have a hugely capable kind of insight and research and editorial team, which spends months developing the right kind of programming runway, and therefore we had a lot of confidence that the topics that they were going to cover are the ones that people want to listen to. And then trying to integrate the role of HSBC in those stories were just kind of was an add-on. But again, HSBC wasn't the core protagonist of it. It was the story of a business leader where help of HSBC could be integrated and interwoven.
I think as well, to add to that, the point around that sort of control bit and not trying to sort of dictate what the content looks like, because that really erodes trust. I think if you're a fan of a particular sort of media outlet and you're used to hearing them talking in a certain way, if they feel that they've been dictated to by that brand and all of a sudden it's not their tone of voice anymore, it's HSBC's dressed up as editorial, that would erode the trust with the audience and the media owner. So it sort of has to work on both sides, but I think that's why it's really important that a brand going into a media partner doesn't try and control the narrative, and they let the media partner actually speak in their tone of voice with the integration of the brand. So, any other questions?
How important is it to amplify the content that you do with media partners, or do you rely solely on that media partner's audience to get the message out there?
We definitely amplify it, and the time and the investment that has gone into developing the content requires amplification and over a period of time. So there was obviously a media plan that was attached to the partnership, but there is also amplification through our markets. So we work with over 55 markets around the globe. So as we were developing the partnership and the content, we made sure that we choose talent and topics that are relevant to those specific markets. So in Condé Nast, we would have 4 pairings of talent that came from US, from UAE, from Singapore, and therefore we knew from the beginning that this content would be relevant and useful and liked by our markets. So we would amplify it with the media from those specific markets in the channels of their choice. We amplified it on our social media, own social media. We put some paid behind it as well, and obviously the content was also amplified quite heavily on social channels in the Bloomberg and Condé Nast ecosystem as well. And we also put it on in-flight entertainment, so that short supercut from Bloomberg runs on Etihad Airlines, for example, around specific international conferences, so that we definitely, sweat the assets in the right way. Yeah.
All good. I think that's time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.